show you now in 1 second the difference, the idea of Jewish dating. It's very simple. It's very simple. Dating in the world goes this way. Right? It goes this way. Most important, irrelevant, go take a hike. Right? That's kind of the way it sort of manifests. The Jewish system is to go this way. You go from this way up. You start discussing here. You're discussing what I want, what's my goals, what are my values. Okay, those are the central discussions. And are we compatible? And the physical has to be there. But the physical could fool us. I mean, ask a question. I mean, how do people, you don't have to answer this. How do people get in a relationship where they know it's over, but they somehow have lingered in the relationship for another 8 months? Most of us have done that. Right? We know it's over. But you know what happens? The physical aspect is like glue. It's a very powerful drug. If I come and say, how you doing, Sam? I put my hand on his shoulder, we have a relationship. Physical things are very, very powerful. So there's a physical attraction, and now there's the physical dimension. We lose the other ones. And that's why Jewish dating works the opposite. We start to figure out, what really are you about? What are your values? Yeah, let's go that way. Oh, are we compatible? Yes. Is there a spark? There's a spark. Then we're great. But if you go the other way, it's very, very, very dangerous. Okay? And so it's very key to be able to understand the priority. Let me say one other point here. So the fifth level. The fifth level is called the Yechida. Yechida. Yechida is, in Hebrew, it means the oneness. Okay? And this is the level where it says in the Kabbala, it says in the Zohar, that the souls of the couple are one soul before they come into this world. They're one soul, and they're separated. And when they're separated, they go and they then reunite afterwards and become one. Okay? And that's what it means. When a husband and wife have relations, when they're together, they're one entity. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, in every sense, they're one. Because in their yechida, in their root of their soul, they were one entity. They were split into male, female, and they come together afterwards. Those are the 5 levels. Okay, that's what it means, soulmates. Okay, when the child is formed, 40 days into creation, it says in the Talmud that a voice comes out. This one is for that one. These two are part of one whole. Okay, so when you hit it, you have to be able to get all 5. This one is hard to know because this is a completely spiritual level. These we have power over. When we hit these, we know this one's going to be there. Okay? If you try to arbitrarily meet someone and you don't go through the process, it's very difficult. The Talmud actually says a story. It says that there was a great rabbi, Rabbi Yossi, and what happened was this Roman noblewoman said to her, listen, what does God do now after He created the world? What does He do? He is off. He's unemployed. What does He do? Right? What does He do? What does it mean? So he said, you know what He does? He goes and He makes matches. He brings 2 people together. So this Roman nobleman said, that's no big guy, do it also. She takes 1,000 of her slaves, the male slaves, 1,000 female slaves, and she goes and she makes matches. And she marries them off. A mass marriage. Next day, they all come in. One guy's got a broken arm. They got a fat lip. You know, they're all disheveled and distraught. Get me away from this person! Why? Because it's not arbitrary. It's not just meeting someone. It happens to be that there's 2 souls that are split. And when they come together, they're one whole unit. That's very, very, very powerful. Very powerful. So how do you go and maximize the ability to meet that person? Those who haven't yet, those who haven't. But if you haven't, how do you maximize it? Well, one way is to bring out what is your unique quality. Because what's going to happen is, if you're going to meet that other person, you have to sometimes bring out what you're really about. When you bring out what your real potential is, then at that point, the the other person that you're supposed to meet, that other half of yours, is going to be appropriate for now to unite. But if you're like on a wrong trip, because we have free will, and we're living our lives in a way that's not appropriate to hook up with our other half, then we can push it off. We can delay that unity. Okay? Before I go on, let me say, I have a couple more, because I wanted to, any questions, comments, thoughts on what I said so far? And let's say one more aspect. Great? Okay. One other. So let's say hopefully we've done the right thing. We started here and we started talking about our unique goals and our mental concepts. We have the emotional level. We have also the physical attraction. We start in the right direction. That means we're soulmates. We've been brought together. Okay. Now the problem is you're together hopefully. How do you make sure it succeeds? Okay? Because unfortunately what happens in the world is that we said there's very bad statistics right now. So to understand this, I have to go back to what I said before. I said that love was what? Giving. This is a very, very different approach than we have in the world today. What do we talk in the world? Today in the world we talk about somebody and we sing songs about it, and we write books about it. It's about what? It's all about falling in love. Right? Falling in love, right? But think about it a minute. Think about the terminology. I'm falling in love. What does that mean? You're walking down the road. Whoops! Oh man, I fell in it! That love thing, darn it. But it's crazy. You fall into ditches, into pits, into holes. How do you fall into love? I mean, you fell into it. The whole concept is bizarre. Oh, I slipped. Oh gosh, I fell in that thing again. I didn't. What does that mean? It's bizarre. Because it's a whole different concept. You see, falling in love, what that really is, in our terminology, is when you meet someone that is potentially this person, there's this infatuation, there's this excitement. Okay? Now what that is that's a taste of what it could be. You can make it this plus more. But if we don't go and nurture that through the Abba, through the giving, it fades away. It fades away. That's why people say, you know, darn it, I was walking down the street and I fell into love, but I fell out. You fell out? I didn't fall out. You fell out. I don't know, it just fell out. Nuclear reactor. I'm falling out. What does that mean? Bizarre. So the concept like this is like, imagine you have a goal you have to get to. You have a giant mansion you're going to. You're walking through the night, through the darkness, and all of a sudden you see a flash of lightning. Then what happens? You know how to go. But you know what happens afterwards? Back to dark. Now you have a direction you have to walk. The infatuation we feel when we first get married, in the beginning, or we first meet a person that excites us, that is a glimpse of the potential of where this could go. It can go there and much, much further. Now the lightning is off, because it fades. But what happens is, if you've built it through your Ava, through your giving, you not only get back to that infatuation state, you get even more. If you don't, then you fall in and you fall out. That's not what we want to do. So the concept here in terms of relationships is to get the priorities straight. Look for the root of what it's about, which is knowing your values, knowing your purpose. Make sure everything else is in line. And once you have that relationship, to make it work, it's all dependent on the fact of understanding. It's all inspiration and then work. Inspiration is the infatuation. That's the beginning. People call it fall in love. We don't call it fall in love. We call it now showing you what you can make if you give the Ava, if you give the love, and you build that unity, build that soul connection, and you become one soul. Questions, thoughts, comments? Something. Let me hear. Any arguments?
Okay. Back to the whole physical thing. I had a friend, and she knew. I guess it was a friend of a friend or whatever, and he was dating and going out with all these girls, and he had very high standards, and they had to look a very certain way and have a certain hair color, and and he went out with a good couple, like few dozen different girls, and none of them were going anywhere. And a friend of his said, go out with this girl, I'm telling you, she's not up to your standards, but just go out with her, it's worth it. And he married that one because at the end of the day, it's about everything else, and he thinks she's the most beautiful person in the entire world because everything else is what he wants.
That's a great story. It's a great story.